Hey Razor fans, today I'm going to change the oil on my S900 2015 Razor. I have approximately, I think, 166 miles on it. When I first bought it, it already had, I think, like 5 or 6 miles. But basically I went through two tankful of fuel, like it said in the manual to do before you give it the first oil change. Okay. The drain bolt is a 6mm Allen wrench that you're going to need for it, and it's underneath here. And I've got this big skid plate in the way, but there is a hole in the back here. I'll show it to you. So it's right hold on here. Wow, that's hard to see, isn't it? I was able to see it earlier today. Oh, there it is. Okay. Sorry about that. Goes right in there. See that? 6mm Allen wrench is what you're going to need for that. There is another plug, a couple holes down, like right there. And I'm not going to move the camera there now, but that takes an 8mm Allen wrench, and that is your drain plug for your transmission fluid. So don't get the two mixed up. This is your drain plug for the oil. Okay? I'm going to pull this camera out. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to mention was I'm using Polaris's OEM PS4 Extreme Duty synthetic 4-cycle engine oil. It takes 2.5 quarts. I'm also using their Polaris Pure Filter, or Pure Polaris oil filter. Now, one thing I want to mention. The reason why I'm recording this very basic maintenance procedure is for one of two reasons. One is I thought I would show you where the drain plug is at, because it's a little hard to find if you don't know where to look, and give you some idea on how to change the oil on these things, because I don't think there's anything on YouTube that I could find that showed you. And two, most importantly, is you have something down on your service record. So it's good to write down in the maintenance log when you change the oil on these things and change the filter, as well as record that moment if you can, even if it's just a brief moment that says, hey, today I'm going to change my transmission fluid for today. Just record it and log it. The reason for that is if for whatever reason you need to bring your Razor in for service, if something goes wrong with the engine, some weird stuff, I don't know, the gears, something happened with the gearing, or the engine blows up, and they come back and say, well, you didn't change your oil, or you didn't use the right oil. Well, guess what? You have it on film on this date, June 7th, 2015, which is when I'm doing mine, at 166 miles, and you can tell them, look, I changed it. I got it on record. You can't tell me I didn't change it. It's a very basic thing to do, but believe it or not, people don't always record their maintenance service moments or log. They just basically log them in, even if they even do that. I think it's important, just to avoid any issues down the road. Hopefully you get a good dealer that stands by its product and stands by its customer. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and change the oil on this thing, and then I will come back and show you how it went, folks. So this is the oil that I'll be using for my Razor S900 2015, and it takes 2.5 quarts. PS4 Extreme Duty Full Synthetic 4-cycle engine oil by Polaris. The other thing I really wanted to show you was this oil wrench. This is really cool. See, You'll find that if you try to get in here with a standard wrench, it's a tight fit. So I mean, it may work for you, but it didn't work for me. And I'm all about easy. I'll even go out and buy a tool, even if I think I'm only going to use it once to make my life easier. But that never really happens since I'm always doing something mechanically. But basically how it works is it goes on the end of this. See, I'll show you. Hold on here. So what it does is it can actually adjust to the size of the filter that you have. So you put it on something like this, a long extension, and then you close it onto the filter, and when you turn it, it'll turn the filter. Nice and easy. See? Really good investment, because it won't just fit that filter, but if you have a, like me, I have several small engines, Honda engines that I change filters on. And if you go to the AutoZone or some place like that and you try to buy those already pre-sized filter wrenches, you'll learn real quick that not one wrench fits all. So you end up buying 3 or 4 different size filter wrenches before you get the right size that fits your, sometimes your filter. But anyway, so the next thing I'm going to do is take the filter off and kind of show you how that works a little bit. It's kind of cool. Here. So, it is right there. Cool. See, now I had this other wrench like this, and I can't stick it in there. And it's not going to work. I suppose if I finagled with it a little bit, it would work, but I don't have time to finagle. I just want things to work. So I'll use this quite a bit for a lot of different filters that I already change out on my engines. So this will come in handy. It's about 20 bucks at the store. I think you can get it off of Amazon. I think Husky sells one. Get that one, but this one works really well. Alright, so I'm going to put some gloves on real quick. And just 1 second. You make sure you get some towels underneath that filter, especially if you started up the engine. And usually what happens is when you loosen the filter, a little more oil comes out from underneath because of the pressure. I'll show it to you. See? Kind of like that. Now I've already loosened the filter with the wrench, so I don't know if it'll, I can loosen it more with it. I don't think so. Kind of a weird angle. But basically, I'm going to go ahead and there we go. You should be able to see something at least. Anyway, you kind of get the gist of it. Put this on here like so. I'm going to go on the other side and do this. Just like that. Hold it there, the jaws, and then right when you turn it, it will clamp on the filter. You'll kind of figure it out as you go, and then just turn it easy. Here, let me see if I can get the camera for this. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. If I had somebody to help me, it wouldn't be so hard. Alright, so it's going to be hard to do with one hand at the same time show you, but I know this is elementary stuff, you know, and you're thinking, ah man, why is he showing us all this stuff? But you know what? Maybe for somebody it's not. So you basically see it's got a handle on that filter real good. The jaws. So, you know, all I gotta do is just turn it up here a little bit. Then you can watch it move. Watch. See how that filter moves? Kind of cool actually. Okay, so before I take it out anymore, I'm gonna have to put this back up. Alright, so there it is, guys. Took it off. Probably spilled about 3 ounces of oil on the rags. See? So yeah, a little bit spilled on the rag. Got a little bit on the engine. Make sure you wipe that inside really good and the threads. You don't want to get any paper in there, so be careful. There's a little oil in there. Surprisingly, not a whole lot dropped, but I think that's because I let it sit for a while. Okay. And there's the old oil filter. Set this over here for now. Okay. So for the new filter, what you want to do okay. I already had one that was open. Dip your finger in here a little bit. Put it on the seal of the filter, fresh oil, so that next time it's not hard to put on. And basically you want to put this on a few turns until you can't turn anymore, and then another quarter turn. So keep turning it till it's nice and snug, and then another quarter turn. It's just that the factory one is always the hardest one to come off. But anyway. These blue towels work really well. Costco sells like a whole pack for a fraction of the cost of what you would pay at a standard auto store. So I'll go, if you have a Costco card, go there and get a whole thing of it. These work really well for a lot of things. So I'm turning it till it's snug, and then I'm gonna give it one more turn, all by hand. Okay, so I had that turn by hand as tight as I could get it. I could probably get a little tighter, but then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this on and turn it just a tad more, just a little bit, not much. And then that'll be my setting for this. Well, actually, you know what? That's really interesting. They don't design this way. They only design it for it to come off. So yeah, it makes sense not to, because they're afraid people are going to probably put them back on and torque them too hard with those things, which you can. But really, just doing it by hand is enough. I'm going to turn it just a little bit more, even though what I did was good. So basically, until it's nice and snug, so you can't move it anymore, and then maybe a quarter more turn if you can, and then you're good. Although, see, my left hand's weaker than my right, so I'm going to go with my right hand here. Okay, that's good. That should be good. That might be a little bit too much, but I think that's fine. Okay, now we are going to do 2.5 quarts of, oh, actually, forgot. You got to plug it underneath. So this is the plug that came out, and this is the lock washer or the crush washer that came out of it. See? The plug. This is the original crush washer. Now, one thing I want to mention is it's always good practice to change out the old crush washer with a new crush washer of the same size. Why? Because the new one, the old one, usually these crush washers are there to prevent any, to give you a tighter fit and to prevent any leakage. But after a while, they start to shape they start to shape like the nut that was fitted on it. And so that's why, by default, a lot of these dealers, when they change your oil, at least the dealerships do it this way, they'll always use a new crush washer. So I went to the hardware store and I tried to get one as close to that fitting as I possibly could. Now, this one, let's see here, I think this one will work. A little big for this too, huh? Yeah. Whoop. Alright, so I think I'll just, this is the closest I could find, so I'm going to use this and put it over this, and this should work. See? Alright. I'll be back. Oh, and by the way, check your service manual, see what the torque rating is on this. I think it's 12 foot-pounds is what it should be at. When I took it off with the Allen wrench, it was a little hard to do. So if you don't have a torque wrench, do it nice and snug, and then a little bit more if you can. If you do have a torque wrench, feel free to use one, and double check your manual to see if it's 12 foot-pounds. I'm pretty sure it is. I'm going to double check mine, but that's just something you should know. I'll be back. Okay, so remember when I said it needed to be torqued at 12 foot-pounds? Well, it does. That's what the manual says. So it's either that or 16 Newton meters. Now I have a little Newton meter wrench here because I work on bicycles as well. And when you torque things down on a bicycle, it's usually torqued down in Newton meters. So I'm going to go ahead and use that to torque the drain plug to 16 Newton meters, which is supposed to be equivalent to 12 foot-pounds. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. But now the last and final step is to pour the oil into the engine. There is a cap. First you got to lift, there is a panel here that you're going to have to lift up first. Once you lift it up, you'll see an oil cap right here. It's gray, at least on this one it is. I'm going to unloosen that cap, set it to the side, make sure your funnel's clean on the inside. If you've used it for other things, there's no debris in it. Blow it out if you have to. So you know it takes 2.5 quarts because that's what the manual says. So go ahead and just throw 2 quarts in it with no reservation. Now, from my understanding, is after the first oil change, you don't need to change the oil for another 1,000 miles or something, maybe 1,500. I can't remember, but it's like an oil change for a car almost. So again, we're going to do the, make sure it's oil, PS4 Extreme Duty, full synthetic, 4-cycle engine oil, 10W50 by Polaris. One. When I drained that last oil that was in here, it was pretty black. I was surprised because I only driven it for like 166 miles, so to see it that black, it's like wow. I'm sure a lot of that is, you got a lot of engine, break-in engine shavings and stuff like that in there too. So I know this is pretty basic stuff, but you know, for some of you who didn't even know where the oil filter was at, well, now you know. I think the important thing is just getting off that filter. I mean, I could have went ghetto and used a screwdriver to take it off and all that, but those filters are soft when you turn them incorrectly. You can break them and, you know, just go out and spend the money on the right filter or the oil wrench and make your life easy. You'll use it more than once, and if you know a faster and easier way that's going to work for you, then that's fine. This is just how I do it. So we already got 2 quarts in there now. And now I'm going to pour another half quart. One thing I don't like about these 1 quart containers is when you go out and you buy a quart of oil, it shows you where the measurements are and it's clear. Well, this isn't. I wish they would have done it that way so you could gauge on the half quart part of it. But I'm just going to have to guess, so. Okay, so once you got it poured in there, start your engine for just a couple seconds. Let it rest, then check your oil, because remember, oil's got to fill that filter as well. So I'm guessing that extra half quart is to help fill that filter once it's in there. Close it. I'm going to start it and I'll be back. Okay, that's enough. You just want the oil to climb into the filter so that you can get an accurate measurement. Let it rest, and then take these off. Okay, I saw that it was above the first mark on that filter stick, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. In fact, let me go get it right now. Okay. So it's right at the add point. Right between those two lines is safe. I like to get it closer to that second line, that second hole, I'm sorry. So right beneath that would be good for me. I don't know, I always feel like, you know, lubrication is an important factor with your engine, so always try and get it at a good mark. I'm going to throw a little more in there. Now I'm going to start it for a little bit longer, being that there's a little more oil in it, and I kind of, you know, I just didn't want it to be under the add mark, like too far under the add mark. And now that I've added a little more oil, I'm going to start it one more time, a little longer. So I noticed underneath the crankcase where that bolt is, that there was some fresh oil down there. That's not good. I torqued it at the right spec and everything, so I'm gonna go back and check it, and I'll be right with you. Okay, so I checked that oil spot underneath, and it just turned out to be old oil, so we're good there. And then I just kind of made sure it was tight with a standard Allen wrench, but I did torque it at the right spec, which is 12 foot-pounds, and or 16 Newton meters, I believe. And that's it. So if, let's see here, I'll show you what the old oil looks like. It doesn't look too bad. It looks clear. It looks pretty clear. It looked dirtier when it came out, but I mean, it's dirtier on my finger than it probably looks on camera. Anyway, either way, it needed to be changed at this interval. So feel free to comment or give me your thoughts. I know this video was a little bit dragged out, but the important thing is that you get the right wrench for that filter. And you measure your oil just right before that second line to put it in the safe zone. If you have any questions, comments, or advice, feel free to post them. And thanks for watching. Subscribe if you like.